Thank you, Stephen. It's always a pleasure to be with the church there in South Africa, and uh, my heart is always thinking of you, um, praying for you, and concerned for the gospel, um, knowing that you have such a great task ahead of you, and I'm very thankful for all the faithful who are there in your community and in your congregations. So let me enter into the sermon time. Um, I think if I'm not mistaken, everyone likes a good pie. Um, in the United States, we eat a lot of sweet pies. They're mostly dessert type of pies made with lots and lots of sugar and syrups and things like that. When I lived in Brazil, we had pies that were more savory and made of meats and varieties of things like that. My thinking is probably that South Africa is used to the savory pies as well. And if I'm on the right track, okay, yeah. So um, maybe you have. I don't know what your favorite pie is. Maybe it's black pepper pie or uh, uh, vetkoek. Is that a pie? Um, babuti, maybe some pies that you would eat. And let's think about what makes a good pie. You have your special person that makes the best of your favorite pie. Maybe they make the way they season the meat or the way they cook it or the way they build the crust so that's nice and flaky and tender or crispy. I don't know. Okay. But let's pretend that we're going to have a pie today after we eat, that you've all gathered together and you're going to eat pie when we get done eating, and that I have prepared a special pie for you. Um, and what if I had a secret ingredient that just made my pies so tasty that everyone loves my pies because they feel so good in your mouth and on your palate and going down, right? Now, uh as long as my secret ingredient is secret, everyone's okay with it. But then when I tell you what my secret ingredient is, I don't know how you'll feel. So, um, would you like to know my secret ingredient for the best savory pie? I hope you're like, yes, yes. I really do. Okay. Well, what if I told you that my secret ingredient is just a little bit of dog dung? Ah, the reaction's what I was thinking it would be, right? I mean, but just a little bit, and you would never know it's there. It's such a small amount. You would never know it's in the pie. Um, we're not talking about like a full cup of dung. We're just talking about a little bit. And so let me ask you a question. Um, would that be okay? If I had the best pie and everybody liked it, as long as my ingredient was secret, it's not okay, is it? So let me just ask you, how much is it okay? Let's see. How much is it okay to put in the pie? A little bit? 1 tablespoon? 1 teaspoon? No? You still don't want it? What about just one
No,
little?
no.
No? All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. The smallest amount I can get. I've ground it up and it's just a pinch. Just a pinch. That's all it's going to be. Now, you may not ever taste it. You may not ever know that it's there. If you knew that that was the ingredient, would is there any part of that pie you would want? No, you would not want that pie. Why? Because it is contaminated, because it is impure, it is unholy, it has been uh it has been made disgusting, right? And so today, this is a sermon that I preached as part of a series of the blessed statements at the beginning of Matthew chapter 5. He says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall see God." No, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the peacemakers. And then he said, one of those is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And so today's sermon title, Seeing God, is about how do you see God? Well, you have to be pure in heart. Those are the people that get to see him. Have you ever been and you'd like to see the doctor? We use this phrase in English. I hope it translates into the way you speak in South Africa. Um, but we would say, well, I'd like to see the doctor, or the doctor will see you now. It's not like just visually looking and placing their eyes on you. It's a visit, it's a communion with one another. So when Jesus says, blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. That ought to catch our attention, because um, I don't want to just glance God from afar. That would be amazing. But I want communion with God. I really want to be with God. I want uh, Him to be my Father and me to be His Son, right? And so I want to see God, and Jesus says, "You who have pure hearts, you'll see God." Um, he didn't come up with that on his own. Well, the fact he is the word, maybe he did, but the Psalm we read, Psalm chapter 24, actually says that exact same thing. And a lot of those blessed statements at the beginning of Matthew 5 come from past scriptures from the Old Testament. And this is one of them that was in our reading today, and our scripture reader was excellent. But if you notice in Psalm 24, it's praising God. It starts off, but then what does it say in verse 3? It says, "Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord?" Basically, who can go up the hill to see the Lord? Who can go up there and be with him? And who shall stand in his holy place? Well, first of all, let's let's talk about our intent. Our intent is to stand in his holy place, is it not? Our intent is to go up the hill of the Lord. That's what we want. I hope that's what you want. I hope you get to stand in the holy place of God. I hope you get to be there. And so the psalmist, by tradition, is David in this psalm, and he answers the question, verse 24 or verse 4. Who can do this? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his soul to what is false and does not swear deceitfully. So, who gets to be with God? Who gets to go up the hill? Clean hands, pure heart. The word in Matthew, back in Matthew chapter 5, when he lists that, the we don't have the Aramaic word. I don't have access to the Aramaic word that Jesus may have used when he spoke it, but when Matthew wrote it down, he used the Greek word cardia. Cardia. That's the word for heart, your heart. And so a lot of times when we think about cardia in English, uh, we your what do we refer to as your heart system in your body, your cardiac system, um, cardiac failure. Those are things to do with your heart. But when Matthew writes this word cardia, he's not just talking about your physical heart, he's talking about your soul and your spirit, all of who you are, your inward being, and what comes out of that. And it's used, Matthew uses it a couple more times. So let's look at some more texts where he talks about these things. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12. So, Matthew chapter 12 and verses 33 and 34. Matthew 12:33. And you'll recognize these, I think, if you've read Matthew, these are the kinds of stories that stick out. Jesus says, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. Well, there you go. Um, maybe maybe this tree is always producing sour fruit. It's not very good. Or maybe this tree always has diseased fruit or doesn't produce good fruit. Why? Because something's wrong with it interiorly. What you're feeding the tree is not healthy. Therefore, the fruit that comes off the tree. This is something that a 4-year old could easily understand, right? This is not hard to understand. But then Jesus, in this next verse, gets real practical to a group of adults. He says in verse 34, you brood of vipers. That's a way of saying you den of snakes, right? Kind of the same thought. How can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So um, he basically says our heart is like that tree, and whatever comes out is a reflection of what's inside, right? Um, I'm going to give us three eyes, and I'll kind of go through them quickly. Three eyes, the letter I, not the seen eye, the letter I. The first I is innocence. In order to have a pure heart, we need to maintain innocence. When Jesus sends out his disciples, right, to evangelize, he tells them, be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Don't let yourself become um, contaminated by the flesh that is in the world. We've got to fight against that. We've got to maintain innocence. And what is innocence? Well, innocence is a lack of understanding. It's you don't understand and you don't know. For example, if someone was using foul language, um, I may have told you this story before. I'm going to tell it again. So, when I was learning Portuguese and I lived in Brazil, I had a really good Portuguese teacher. And one day I asked her about the curse words in Portuguese. What are the cussing words in Portuguese? And she said, I'm not going to teach you those. And I told her, I was like, I feel like I should know so that I don't accidentally pick up the word from someone thinking it means something else and it's not an appropriate word. And she just was adamant she was not going to teach me the words. Now, I probably could have gone and looked them up for myself, but I never did. And therefore, if anyone was ever using foul language around me during the years that I lived in Brazil, I honestly wouldn't have known it because I didn't know the words. I was innocent because of the lack of knowledge of knowing those bad words. Um, Innocence also generally does not understand subliminal hints because they take things at surface level. Innocence doesn't understand sarcastic comments or attacks. And so when we want to keep our heart pure, we want to maintain as much innocence as we can. Um, and I don't mean to say that the heart, well, I didn't understand my note here. Let me skip over that. Um, but what comes out of our heart is a reflection of what's inside. For example, if we're saying mean words, That's a reflection of our heart. If we say some insensitive things to people, it's a reflection of how our heart truly thinks and believes about those people or about those situations. If we are rebellious in what we say, then that's a reflection of our heart. If we are constantly angry, then that's a reflection of our heart. If we are constantly frustrated, that's a reflection of our heart. And Matthew continues to talk about this in chapter 15. So flip over 3 chapters here to chapter 15, and let's look at verses 18 and 19. All right, I'm going to read these two verses. Um, but what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, and slander. Now, I'm not saying that you, as beloved brothers and sisters of Christ, struggle with these things, but I bet there's something. I bet there's something that we struggle with. And those things arise from the heart. And so we have to protect our innocence and we have to protect our heart. Let me tell you 3 things you can do to protect your heart. Number one, um, 3 things you can do to take care of your heart and have the heart God wants. Number one is to protect it. Okay. That is, you don't let things in, just like my Portuguese teacher would not let me even let those words enter into my mind. She was protecting my heart. And we can protect our heart by what we allow in. Um, what does the Bible say? Take every thought captive, right? Let's we have to be consciously considering what we're allowing to go in and what we're dwelling on. The second thing that we might need to do is have a heart transplant. And that is our heart is so corrupt and so full of cancer and sin that it needs to be removed and put back in. And the truth is there is a heart that is ready to replace our hearts, and that is the heart of Jesus. Okay. And he offers that heart transplant. It's more like a blood transfusion. He's going to take you out and all the things that make you alive out and put himself in. And that is a heart transplant. And that may need to be done for us to have a pure heart. And the third thing we need to do is heart cleaning. So sometimes some of you will take a medicine, right, that helps break down the buildup of, um, of substances inside our arteries and inside our heart to keep us from having a heart attack or cardiac arrest. So we need to also keep cleaning out the things that would cause problems in our hearts. And the way we do that is through constant daily living with God's people and God's word. So those 3 things can help with our innocence of heart, protect the heart, have a heart transplant, and have a heart clean out. There's 3 levels that need to happen. The second I is after innocence is the having a pure heart means we are dealing with the interior, the internal of what's going on. Let's stay in Matthew. Let's go to chapter 23 now. In Matthew chapter 23, Jesus pronounces 7 woes against the scribes and the Pharisees. And I I don't know if I wouldn't have been one of these guys back during those times, that Jesus would have had to say this to me. But the last 2 woes that he mentions, I want to take a look at in verses 25 through 28. In verse 25, I guess it's not the last 2, it's Numbers 5 and 6. Um, Matthew chapter 23, verse 25 says, woe to you, you scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Um, you don't want to go to someone's house and they serve you a glass of water and you look at down in the bottom of the cup and there's lots of dried food and leftover residue from other things, right? You don't want that. Even if the outside of the cup is nice, even if it has your favorite football team logo on the side of the cup, if the inside's dirty, you don't want to drink out of it. And Jesus, he tells us as people, if your inside is unclean, if it's contaminated pie, I don't want it. It's not good for us. It's not desirable, and it's not the way to see God. Um, what did he tell Samuel when Samuel went to Jesse's house in 1 Samuel chapter 16 and to anoint the next king, right? And out comes Eliab, and this is First Samuel chapter 16. I think it's verse like 5 and 6. Eliab, the son of Jesse, comes out, and Samuel says, "Oh, look at this guy. He's tall, he's handsome, he's powerful, he's older. Like this is going to be the guy." And what does God say to Samuel in verse 7? He said, "No, no, no, no. I'm going to show you it is. Man is looking at the outward appearance. God looks at your heart. I'm looking at the heart," God says. That's a pretty big deal, right? He's looking deep down beyond what comes out. He's looking at even the intentions of the interior. What did Jesus say back in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5? Yes, it's wrong to murder someone, but then Jesus takes it down to the heart level and says, I don't even want you to be angry at someone. I don't want you to say raka to your brother. Don't call him names. He equalizes murder and anger and hatefulness. And he says, just because it's not coming out doesn't mean it's not a problem. He does the same thing with adultery. We all know that adultery is wrong, right? In Matthew chapter 5, he says it. We all know that adultery is wrong, but then Jesus takes it to the heart level and he says, I'm telling you, even when you look at someone and you lust, and even when you're doing it inside on the heart level, that's still wrong. That's not what we want. So having a pure heart means we don't just have a little bit. Remember this, right? We don't, even if it's an insignificant amount, it still contaminates. By the way, this is just black pepper. That's all I'm using, black pepper. I don't really have dung here, but it makes a point, right? Isn't it? I hope that it makes a point that as human beings, as flesh, we're tempted sometimes to let some of the world into our life, into our heart. Could be in language, could be in entertainment, could be in bitterness, could be in frustration. I don't know what it is. And I hope, every time I hear anything about the church there where you are, it's always good. I see you as simple, wonderful, pure people. So I'm not bringing this sermon in a way that I think, you're doing anything wrong. I'm just saying, let's make sure we have the kind of hearts that are going to see God, that are not divided, right? That are complete. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23, it's a proverb, but it says, guard your heart with all diligence. With all diligence. Like you need to be on purpose about this. Why? And then he tells us, because out of it comes the wellspring of life. So your life is going to be a reflection of the kind of desires and things that you build up in your heart, right? A drug addict, uh, someone who's addicted to sex or is addicted to gambling. Where do those things come from? Well, they come from impurity in the heart. You've allowed yourself a little bit, and now all of a sudden it's taking over. So it was just a little bubbling spring, and now it's a river. Your life is a reflection of your heart. The third eye, and this is the last one, is integrity. Okay, so we've had innocence, interior, and integrity is the third one. And that is this. Um, The word integrity comes from the same word that we get the word integral, which means complete. It's together. If you have integrity, it means that what you say and what you are, what you do, are going to be the same. There's not any difference, right? Um, we have to be people of integrity to have a pure heart. We can't be divided. Um, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, you cannot serve God and mammon, right? No one can serve two masters. He will hate the one, despise the other, despise the one, and hate the other. You can't live with one foot in and one foot out. I'm going to read from James chapter 4. James chapter 4 and verse 8. And it says, draw near to God. So think about Psalm 24. Who'll go up to the hill, who'll stand in his holy place. Think about Matthew 5. Blessed are those of pure in heart, they shall see God. Now, James 4:8, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you, what does he say? Double minded. So, how do you purify your heart? You can't have separate hearts. You can't have a divided heart. It can't be double loyalty. You can't be double minded. So, when he says purify your hearts, who's he talking to? Double minded people, those who are one foot in, one foot out. We have the phrase on the fence, meaning you're not on that side or that side. You try to be on top. Um, uh, People that try to go in two directions at once. Um, we cannot be divided. And that's what he's talking about. Look back at verse 4 of James chapter 4. Okay. He says, you adulterous people. What's an adult? Now, he's not talking about people that have been unfaithful to their spouse. He's talking about people that have been unfaithful to their faith, to their commitment to the Lord. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? That's pretty serious. And then he makes it even clearer. Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. You want to act like the world, be like the world, watch the TV that the world watches, laugh at the jokes that the world thinks are that the world tells, participate in the rallies and the protests and the things that the world wants to do. God says, you're not my friend. You're not my friend if you are contaminated by the world. Now, he's not saying don't have friends, but he's saying you don't let those friendships lead you to be contaminated in your heart. We don't have to talk like them to be friends. We don't have to enjoy the TV shows or the movies that they like to be friends. We don't have to ascribe to traditions or uh, cultural sentiment in order to be friends. But we do have to be faithful to God if we want to be his friend and not his enemy. So, all this to say, this could all be summed up in one thing. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 37. Someone came to Jesus and asked him, what's the greatest command? And what did Jesus say? You should love the Lord your God with your heart, your soul, and your mind. But that's not all he said. He said, you love the Lord your God with all, all, A-L-L, all of your heart, all of your mind, soul, all of your mind, all of it. God is jealous enough to want every single bit of your life and your heart. You want to have a pure heart, you got to love God with all of it. There can't be leftover for the flesh. You can't save some back because it'll be like that pie, right? That's contaminated with just a little bit. We can't be like that. That's all I got to say for now.